This presentation is not so much what's new, but what's different in Microsoft Project 2013 versus Project 2010. And Project 2010 was the first ribbon version. Most of the changes in Project 2013 are in Project Server, so this presentation is about the changes to Project Desktop, not Project Server. Project Desktop is the part of Microsoft Project that regular project managers use, whether it's the Project Professional version or Project Standard. It is the desktop tool that is being covered in this presentation. So if you're looking for what's new in Project Server or what's new with resource assignments in Project 2013, I won't be covering that in this presentation. Again, the focus here is the core changes to the scheduling interface in Microsoft Project 2013. Okay, so here's a brief overview of what has changed. How Project Starts has changed. The first thing you're going to notice is Project 13 starts up differently. It has the Office 2013 motif. And there are changes to the backstage view once you get inside. There's a more modern appearance. There's changes to the Gantt bar view, new summary Gantt bars, new color scheme, changes to the Gantt table itself. The plus and minus outline symbols are now triangular shapes. And there's a nifty little horizontal guide feature that's been added. Microsoft has also made some changes to the timeline view, and the team planner views have also changed. So with respect to Microsoft Project 2010, that's the first version that used the new ribbon interface. The changes you will see in Project 2013 for the first time are actually fairly subtle. They're not major, so hopefully this presentation will help you get ready for those. First of all, Project looks different in how it opens. It has the new Office 2013 startup screen look. Then, after it completes loading, the experience you will have the first time Project 2013 starts up will be different. You will not be greeted with a blank project schedule as in versions past. But if you are the very first user after Project 2013 has been installed, you will get a Getting Started tutorial that has videos and screenshots and hyperlinks to introduce you to all sorts of materials on how to use MS Project. You just punch through the next button to take the tour, or you can click the skip intro link and go straight to the product. At the end of the tutorial, you should end up in a sample file that is actually part of the tutorial. So that is what the first experience with Microsoft Project is like. What Microsoft is trying to do is create more of a front door greeting experience for the user. But you know, as project managers, we're an impatient group. We just want the tool to create a schedule. So we make a quick mental note of that a few things have changed, and we notice that the whole thing looks somehow graphically different. The tabs are all in capitals. There's a new tab called Report. The outline control is no longer a plus-minus box, but a rotating triangle and arrow. And the summary taskbars look different, more like a staple or something like that. And the zoom bar looks different too. So it all looks familiar, but it's not the same. It's different, but you're not quite sure why. Here on the screen is a top-to-bottom comparison between Project 2010 and Project 2013, with 2013 in the bottom panel. 2013 takes up a little bit more screen real estate with its new graphics, and the timeline has a bigger footprint. The fonts are also wider in 2013, and the command button icons are not as smooth, and they're a little more edgier and not always in exactly the same place as you found them in 2010. I think the redesign was done to facilitate using a smaller platform such as a tablet. For example, the ribbon tabs are more easy to pick up and read on a smaller device, so the redesign makes sense. So after starting Project up for the first time and going through the tutorial, the next thing that happens in your first user experience depends. You're going to close the practice file that opened up with the startup tutorial, and how you close the practice file will affect what happens. You can either close it by using the File Xbox control in the upper right hand corner, or your style maybe go to the Backstage and select Close there. If you use the upper right hand corner Xbox Close, you'll be dropped into the Backstage. And once in the Backstage, you'll be on the new tab of the Backstage. Fortunately here, the blank project option is conveniently located there, staring you in the face. Thus, if you went this route the first time you went into Project 2013, you're able to quickly get into the Gantt chart view you're used to seeing upon opening Project by just clicking the blank project icon, and then you are there. However, if you went the second route to close the sample file, if you went to the Backstage by clicking on the File tab, you're going to find yourself in the new Backstage view, which is going to take a little bit more time to get through as things are different here. Yes, you will find the Close tab, and you can use it to close the sample file. And thankfully, what would happen next is the new Schedule command button will appear again, and you'll be able to navigate to a blank Gantt chart. But the new Backstage is going to cause you some pause and some time to think. Again, it's a little bit different, and that is going to throw you. One thing that may happen is the differences in the Backstage may startle you, and you may try to go back to the sample project. But the first thing you're going to notice is the ribbon tabs are gone in the Backstage. In Project 2010, you got back to your file from the Backstage via the ribbon. You would click on the Task tab and bang, you'd be back in your Gantt chart. But in 2013, in Office 13, it's different. You get back to your Gantt chart, in this case, by using the left arrow control in the upper left-hand corner. This is a better user face than what was in Project 2010, but it's different. So, as you can see in this animation, Microsoft moved stuff around in Project 2013 in the Backstage. It's all there, but it's in different places. Help and Exit are the only two that got taken out of the list, but they're still on the Backstage as they got moved up into the upper right-hand corner. But the Close option stayed. So really, while the Backstage is different, it really hasn't changed that much. Save and Send got split into two items, SharePoint syncing and email, and Export, which is the PDF creation. And again, these were in one tab, Save and Send, in Project 2010. And the only real new item in the Backstage is the Account option. So what is on the Account tab? On the Account tab, there are basically three sections. The Product Information section, which gives you version and update info. The User Information section, which gives you user account info. And then the User Services section, which gives you access to three different types of web services, connections to images, storage, and social sharing. The first two are really not new, other than you can change the theme here, whereas in Project 2010, that feature was in the project options. And the web and social options are things that you could have gotten outside of Project, but are now accessible within MS Project. Some benefit there is moving forward, my guess is they're going to integrate social project management more and more into the product. So probably the most important aspect from a desktop user's point of view with the Account tab is if you are in a multi-user corporate environment. The Account connection allows you to get your status updates and resource information more easily, and those are features beyond the desktop and thus out of the scope of this presentation, but make note that they are there. Okay, so now going full circle. On the first time experience you have with Project 2013, if you exit Project by clicking the Close Application X box in the upper left-hand corner of the window, and then restart Microsoft Project 2013, the next time you come into it, you will not be in the intro tutorial. You'll see a unique sort of combo view Backstage, consisting of items in the Open tab and the Recent tab of the Backstage. So why this different combo view for the Backstage startup? Why not just the Open tab or the Recent tab? Well, if you think about it, this combination makes sense. After you've seen the tutorial and you don't need to see it again, what Microsoft is trying to do is give the user all the available file options on the restart screen. That is why they have created this unique view, in my opinion. It's different, but it makes sense, unless of course you're looking for additional options found on the Open tab, such as the files on your SkyDrive or on your computer. For that component, you have to click the Open Other Project links on the bottom left-hand corner. That's probably my one gripe about the restart screen, because that's often what you're looking for. You're looking for recent projects, what's on your computer, etc., and it's in a non-obvious place in the bottom left-hand corner. But now that you know it's there, it's easy enough to click on and get to that. Alright, moving on to what are the other major changes in the Backstage. The last item to cover in the Backstage is the Options tab. And in Project 2013, there's not a lot of changes in project options, quite frankly. And in fact, it looks almost identical, even down to the graphics, to what was in Project 2010. On the General tab, as you can see here, the biggest item of interest is the checkbox at the bottom. It clearly lets you start project in a blank Gantt chart, the old way, if you like. Other than that, there are not many differences here on the General tab. Next, the Save tab has a few changes. There's a Don't Show the Backstage option, which hides the Backstage when you use the Quick Access buttons for Open and Save. Not a big deal, but convenient. There's a Show Additional Places option, which makes the SkyDrive link appear in the Save As pane. Again, not a big deal. And then there's the Save to Computer option, which makes Project use the computer link when you select Save As. Convenient, but not a big deal. Some more minor stuff here on the Save tab. You can specify which template folder you want to save to. Convenient, but nothing major here. And there are some changes to the Advanced tab of the project option, but they mostly deal with how many recent files are displayed. 3D graphics display for Gantt bars is gone, and a hardware acceleration option is now there. Really, these are all inconsequential stuff for the average desktop user, to be quite honest. Okay, well, let's move on to the actual tool itself now. We're past the backstage, we're past the changes in the options. And then the next area of changes in Project 2013 is the Gantt chart display, and this is what you will mostly notice as a user. First of all, let me point out something that's not obvious, in that Microsoft Project 2013 now goes out 100 years farther. It now goes to 2149. That's 100 more years. That's new. The next thing to notice in the user interface is the active row highlighting, which above is seen in the bottom Project 2013 view in row 9. Makes it easier to visually follow the row you are on. The summary tasks are now very tight, staple-like icons in the Gantt bars. Gone are their home plate-like start and end markers. And the plus-minus controls are now rotating triangles. The Gantt bars themselves are no longer 3D. They are flat, two-dimensional bars. And the timescale section of the Gantt chart is less defined, lacking borderline. But all in all, it's basically the same display. And the network diagram view and the calendar view all have similar minor cosmetic changes. And if you're wanting to know if you can make the 2013 Gantt charts look like the 2010 charts, well, you can. You can get the summary tasks to have end markers just like they used to in 2010, but you'll have to mess with the Gantt bar formatting. And you will not, however, be able to get it to have the 3D look. That look is gone. One of the nicer features in 2013 that is new is the task path feature that appears for the first time in 2013. So to add to the arsenal of figuring out which tasks are driving your project schedule, Project 2013 has added this feature to allow you to add color definition to the affected tasks. As can be seen in this drop-down slide, you have 4 options for coloring the active task, and you can select none, 1, 2, or all of these to highlight. So for example, if you were interested in the driving predecessors, if you selected that from the task path option, the driving predecessors would appear in dark orange. If you then wanted to see the driven successors, those would appear in dark purple. If you were more interested in just what also the predecessors or the successors were that were impacted by the task you're currently highlighting, you could also select predecessors in light orange or successors in light purple and get even a more complex picture. And if it's not impacted, the Gantt bars stay in the default color of blue. And if you have the critical task checkbox turned on the Format tab, that color, of course, will override the task path feature and the critical path will stay red. It's an easy matter to turn off the critical checkbox, of course. And again, each layer can be added or removed as needed, and the color change based on which task is active. A lot of visual information, but a nice add, and it also is a nice add to the Task Inspector feature. If you've never used that, you should definitely go on the Task tab and turn on the Task Inspector while messing with the Task Path feature. You will see that you have a lot of information to help you figure out what are the driven and what are the driving links. And if you know from taking my courses how to split the screen and put the predecessors and successors in the lower pane, you will even have more information and ways of figuring out how your tasks are connected. All good stuff. Nice add. Not a major add, but a nice little touch with the Task Path feature. A refinement in Project 2013, which appears in the Project Professional version but not Project Standard, has to do with the inactive task feature. Again, inactive tasks are only available in Project Professional. In Project 2013, they fixed how that feature works so that when a task is marked as inactive, the successor no longer slides all the way back to the start date as it does in 2010, but acts as if the task were deleted or if their duration was set to 0. I don't know if this is a refinement or a bug fix, but it's a nice change for the Project Professional users. And of course, again, the inactive task feature is not available in Project Standard. Another new addition in Project 2013 is a command on the Project Ribbon tab called Apps for Office. Nothing really major here from a scheduling point of view. It's just as if they've added in an Android App Store or an Apple Store, as there are third-party apps for MS Project that can be selected from here. And the App Store looks most like other App Stores, and as expected, there are items that can add functionality to MS Project. Not a lot of apps out there at this time, but it will become something more of value as time goes on. I'm sure you'll see apps for Critical Chain or an add-in for the at-risk product for Microsoft Project produced by Palisades that lets you do Monte Carlo simulations within your project schedules. Again, not a lot there at this time, but a lot coming. In Project 2013, if your organization has Microsoft Link, the instant messaging online meeting VoIP app for Enterprise Unified Communications. With Project 2013, you can take advantage of Link for your project team communications in that any view that uses resources, all you have to do is simply hover over the resource and the Link dialog box pops up. Nothing special here really, but it's a nice add. And now for what is really probably the major change for the desktop user in Project 2013 is the new Report Ribbon tab. As you can see here, there is a new tab in this screen. It shows the Project 2010 ribbon tab on the top and Project 2013 in the bottom. And as you can see, all of the icons for 2013 map to the 2010 ribbon. But those icons, of course, leave the Project tab and go on the Reports tab in Project 2013. And as you can see here, all of the project icons appear that were in Project 2010, of course, appear in Project 2013, with the exception of the Visual Reports and Compare Projects that was on the Project tab is now on a separate Reports tab in Project 2013. So in the top and bottom comparison between 2010 and 2013, you can see that all of the project icons are still there. And again, the new thing is the Report tab seen at the bottom of the screen. And now the bigger item is that the visual reports, of course, make it over to 2013. They've been there since Project 2007. And also Compare Projects, that's been there also since Project 2007, possibly earlier. But notice what's missing is the report options in 2010, the old Microsoft Project version 98, 1998. Those reports, those old text-based reports are gone in 2013 and have been replaced by a totally new report template. This is a significant change because one of the jobs of a project manager is to create management reports. And in the past, most of us have used either just printing out a Gantt chart or exporting our data to Excel and doing manipulations there. Now you no longer have to do that. All of the reporting functionality you need that you used to do outside of Microsoft Project is now built into the tool, and it doesn't create any additional files. It's all within the MPP file that this happens. So here on the screen is one of the new reports that are automatically available. Gone are the old text reports, and here's a graphical based report that can be viewed, printed, or exported to other applications. And notice this basically replaces the information that's on one of the text reports, but it looks much better. So the great thing here is you can create your own reports, such as the one above, or you can use any one of a variety of canned reports that now come in Project 2013. And whether you either build a new report or modify an existing report that comes as a template, it's good to know that in Project 2013 you have the full palette of tools to create the text boxes or tables or charts and shapes that you want in your report. The toolbar for the reports works just as you would expect from any Microsoft Office application, and as you can see here, the tools are very similar to what you find in the graphical reporting tools in Word and Excel. So if you've used these in the other products, you'll be in familiar environment, as basically at this point you're only going to be limited by your imagination, and then the challenge becomes to creating reports that are effective for your projects. So as you can see here, you may find yourself starting out with a very basic overview report. As you can see here on the Dashboards button on the Report tab, there's a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different reports of burn down, cost, duration, project overview, etc. And of course there's the more reports options below. But you can see you can start with this and edit that project overview report and turn it into the report you want. Or you may just go with the canned reports you find in Project 2013. Alright, the last thing, and as you can see I've saved the best for last on what's new in 2013. The reporting feature is excellent. But to me, one of the biggest reasons Project 2013 is important is not so much these new features, as they're really not much of a change from 2010. It looks different, but functionality you get in 2010 is all there in 2013. Not really a big leap. Not a lot to get used to. In fact, nothing to get used to once you get used to the color changes. And of course, the reports option is a significant add, but quite frankly, from a desktop perspective, there really isn't a lot of difference in Project 2013. It's subtle at best. But I do think the biggest impact of 2013 is Microsoft Office 365. In Office 365, which is the cloud version, the software as a service application that you can buy from Microsoft on a monthly basis, the great thing there is it's always the latest, newest version, and it's always got the latest patches. And you can see here in the pricing, if you sign up for a year of it, it's only $25 a month, or if you just take it a month at a time, you pay just $34 a month, which is significantly less than what you would pay for your own copy of Microsoft Project. Now, the interesting thing about Office 365 is it is not like Google Docs where you're actually working in the cloud. Microsoft actually streams the program down to your computer and checks to see if your license has run out. It lets you use it for the month, and it's a pretty good experience. So in this world of agile projects and constant change, Office 365 is probably the biggest impact, as it may end up making most of the users of MS Project be on the most current version, because you may go from one project to another and then suddenly you need Microsoft Project and you go on to the cloud and use Office 365. And at this price point, it's tough to beat, especially in this age of constant change, and the mobility of project managers as they move from projects to projects and then companies to companies, knowing that you can always get to this powerful tool quickly and easy through the Microsoft website is a really big game changer and probably the biggest impact of this release. So if you're wondering what I meant by these changes being subtle, well, the biggest one again was Office 365 for Project. That is a subtle and unobvious change, but major for this release. And then the second biggest change was the reporting option. And for scheduling, the change there is subtle in that the impact to scheduling comes from the feedback you'll get from management and that impact on your project schedules. That is a non-obvious / subtle impact, but will be a big impact from the new scheduling features. And for the rest of the changes in Project 2013, well, not much from a scheduling perspective, and that's not obvious. Hopefully this presentation will help you understand from a scheduling perspective what is really different in 2013, and that is important to know. That's it. That's my presentation on what's different in Project 2013. I hope you enjoyed.